G'day, John Canny here. Well, today I'm going to talk about two things. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the 5 reasons I'm now unhappy with Ineos. Ineos, the company, that is, not Ineos Grenadier, my car, because I'm still happy with that, that's for sure. So I'm going to talk about the 5 things that are now making me pretty unhappy with Ineos. And the second thing I'm going to talk about later in this video is why my car was carted away on the back of a flat top. So I'll talk about that issue, and I'll also answer a few of the comments that came in about my last video and the issues around getting into strife out the Outback. So we'll talk about that a bit later. But okay, let's start with the 5 things that are really making me unhappy about Ineos. Okay, I've had my car 6 or 7 months now, maybe, 7 months, a little bit more than that. I've done 20,000 kilometres in it. It's basically been great. Okay, I've had one hitch, which we'll talk about later, but other than that, it's been fantastic. Now, my first annoyance is that there's still no technical manuals available. You know, I was promised when I bought this car, and I bought this car with the promise of manuals, CAD drawings, all those sorts of things. You know, we'd be able to service our cars ourselves, all those sort of things. That just hasn't happened. That just has not happened. There's no electrical diagrams, there's no technical manuals available, and that's really frustrating. Really frustrating. So, you know, we're fumbling around, not really knowing what we're doing, but fortunately we're helping each other through the forums and whatnot. But really, come on, Ineos, you promised this stuff. Why are you hiding it and not giving it to us? That's my first question. Okay. The second thing is the promise of spare parts. They're going to be readily available. We'll have spare parts, 48 hours anywhere you are. No, my car's been out of action for a month, right? Nearly a month, because it was waiting for a spare part to come from Europe. So I was told. Now, what, 3 weeks to get something from Europe? 3 weeks to get a spare part? You know, I've heard of people having problems with windscreens and all sorts of bits and pieces. You know, I'm still waiting to get a component from my washers that don't work properly because it's got to come from Europe, and we've been waiting. Well, I've been complaining about this, and they've been waiting for it more than 3 weeks, certainly, that's for sure. So whether I'm getting led up the garden path on these things or not, I don't know, but there seems to be a problem with spare parts, and that's a concern. The next issue, number 3, is the cost of buying anything off Ineos. Well, when I was in the Outback on my last trip, and I didn't mention this in the video, but I lost a key, okay? I won't go into how or why or when, but I lost it out there. Now, fortunately, I carry my spare. I always carry it in the van or the camper van or whatever, so that just in case something like this happens, I don't want to be out there without a key. So fortunately, I had the key. So I thought to myself, oh, geez, what a bummer. That's going to cost me $300 or $400. These keys are bloody expensive these days. When I got back, I was told, yeah, sure, we'll get you a new key. $1,200 for a key. Now, this is not a sophisticated key. This is not a proximity key. You don't keep this in your pocket or your handbag or whatever you're carrying and just press a button in the car. You got to stick the key in the hole and turn it. Now, I had a key like this in my cars 10 years ago. It's not a sophisticated key. But of course, when I talk to the hierarchy of Ineos in Australia, oh yeah, very sophisticated, and it's got to be coded, and it's got to be sent from Europe and laser cut. Oh, what a load of BS. You know, $1,200 is having a lend of us. I rang up about a BMW key, okay? And that was expensive too. But it was $800, and it was a proximity key, and a much more sophisticated key than this. You know, we were told about the simplicity of the Grenadier components. Well, $1,200, you're having a go. You're really having a go, Ineos, on that one. I also heard from a dealer, a reputable agent, very reputable agent, that if you want to buy a Steely, just a single Steely steel rim without a tyre, it's going to cost you $1,100. What? You got to be kidding. Oh, you know, there'll be some, oh, it's a special one for Ineos and it's got to come from Europe. So that is frustrating, annoying, and we're getting, you know, we're getting taken on these, I think. $1,200 for a bloody key, come on. Okay, the fourth thing that concerns me is the lack of communication from Ineos. It's really hard to get any response. If I believe my dealer, and, you know, my dealer's, well, I'll talk about the dealer in a moment, but they struggle to get advice back quickly from Ineos. That, you know, if you send an email to Ineos, it's not very satisfactory responses in most cases. So that's my beef there. And the final one, which, look, doesn't apply just to Ineos, that's for sure, but I was hoping Ineos would be better. And that is, we were promised a network of agents or dealers or whatever you want to call them that would be highly skilled and highly trained in these vehicles. I'm not finding that. Now, I'm not having a go at my particular agent because I think they're doing their best, but they're a large dealership of lots of other brands of cars. Small part of their dealership is Ineos Grenadier. They have to go back to Ineos, have to wait responses. I tell them a lot. So that's the problem. Now, as I said, it's not Ineos alone that have got that problem. I mean, I had my Ford Ranger, I remember for about 6 or 7 months I had a problem with a warning, a beeper coming up telling me that my engine coolant was over temperature and I needed to, you know, do something about it urgently. So 5 separate trips back to Ford, and finally, the answer which I suggested in the first place, just replace the sensor, was carried out 6 or 7 months later and solved the problem. Anyway, so, you know, they don't know everything either, and they just deal with Fords. So I guess I got to give them a bit of slack. So now I want to talk about what happened to my car and why it was taken away on the back of a flat top when I came back. Well, you may remember I mentioned previously in a video that I had the car serviced before I went away on this trip, and I mentioned the power steering light was starting to come on. Now, I was told that, yeah, we checked all that out, no problem with your power steering, it's a software issue, we've never had any problem with power steering, so you'll be right. So I took that on face value, and pretty much that was the case. Once I did find the power steering suddenly went firm for only about 20 seconds and then recovered, and I didn't think much more about it. When I got back home, the day after I got back home, I went to back the car out of the drive and nothing, no power steering. I could not turn the steering wheel, basically. So following advice from the Ineos, you know, service line, they organised a tow truck and took it down to my dealer agent, whatever you want to call them. Okay, so it was there for, as I said, for nearly a month. Now, there were 3 issues that I had with it when I took it down. I said, firstly, obviously the power steering, number 1. Second issue, the winch, not working, stopped working midway through. I never got to pull anything with it. It just stopped working. Thirdly, the diff locks. Now, I know I mentioned these in the video, and I made a mistake by blaming myself and saying I was still working out the nuances of the diff lock, because it encouraged a lot of people to think that I didn't know how to operate the diff locks. Okay, well, let me assure you, I know how to operate the diff locks. I've been out on 4 separate trips in this vehicle. I'm very familiar with everything about it. I know how to operate the diff locks. I know how to put it on 4-wheel drive. And by the way, it's always in 4-wheel drive. But I know how to get in low and all those things. But I guess I was trying not to blame the car. You know, I didn't know why I couldn't get the diff locks to work. Turns out this was all part of the same problem. Well, that's the advice I've been given. That's the answer I've been given, okay? The power steering and the winch and the diff locks were all an electrical problem related to a distribution box, panel, whatever you want to call it, that's located where you can't see it underneath the brake booster. Now that's what I've been given. Now I have no manuals. I don't know where anything is in this car, as you know, and I mentioned that earlier. So we just got to be relying on what I've been told by the agent. So I do find it difficult to, in my own brain, to work out that the power steering, power supply, and the winch power supply are linked, let alone the diff locks. But anyway, they fixed the problem. They said there was a burnt out terminal in there. Now that's a little bit of a worry, I must say. And maybe if you get a warning light, maybe there was a loose terminal and because it was loose, it burned out. I don't know, I'm not an auto electrician. But anyway, they claim all fixed, all was the same problem. We had to wait 3 or 4 weeks for that bit to come from Europe, and now it's all fixed going, which is true. It's simple to put the diff locks in as a procedure. You can see it in the manual. It's one of the things that is in the manual, and they normally work fine. So all those things have been resolved now. So that's why it was towed away. How is the car now? It's back. Well, it's basically, well, I was going to say perfect, but quite perfect, because I've still got issues and that is the door seals. So they're going to be replaced. My concern with that is, of course, what are they going to do? Just stick new ones on and let them fall off again? I don't know whether they've got a fix for this or not. Anyone else had theirs fixed and the problems have been resolved? Let me know. The other thing is the side steps. Now, I complained about these right early in the piece after the first trip. After 6,000 kilometres or 5,000 kilometres, now I've done 20, and they're worse, as you can see here. They are going to replace them. Again, have they got a fix for this, or are they just going to put a new set on, and the same thing's going to happen as soon as I start going on unmade roads? If you've got an answer to that one, let me know, please, because I can't keep swapping them over. Well, maybe I should. It ain't work? Well, I've got that PPF on there that I put on some bush rocks. I've got to say, it's fantastic. It's the longer it's been there, the more it's just part of the car now. It's the heat and that is just, and look, have a look. This was the car out there, and with the car now, it's just come up beautifully. So I'm pretty pleased with that, and I've got to say, I'm still recommending that as a good deal for, you know, about, what is it, 20–30% of the cost of getting a professionals done. You don't want to pay that, put this on. It's good. You know, apart from when I came back here and it got towed away, it has not missed a beat. And I love it, I enjoy it, and I can't wait to go on my next trip. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch up with you next time.